swimming across the line. Birds are singing in the trees, natural melodies that fill the sky. Listen to the voices of the children coming from different places across the line. Listen to the voices of the children.
Lesotho is a mountainous nation known as the roof of Africa. This film is about a group of people who are transforming lives and communities in Lesotho. Most of the heroes of this story appear to be disabled, yet they have a great deal to teach us about what it means to be fully human. This film is about transformation, from brokenness to wholeness, from emergency to emergence, from isolation to community. Meet Mamello. Disabled since childhood, Mamello dreamed of creating a home for special needs children where love and encouragement would replace the stigma and rejection she herself had faced growing up.
See them walking down on the winding road.
In 2001, Mamello traveled through the mountain villages of her rural district, determined to find a home base for her project. Faced with chronic food shortages and the tsunami of HIV and AIDS, most of the village leaders Mamello spoke with had all the problems they could handle. In one village after another, she was turned away.
We can go to the preschool.
In the 14th village Mamello visited, she met with a different kind of response. The chief of the village of Hamachata, a woman, understood Mamello's vision and invited her to stay.
This is Memata, one of the chief of this area. She's the one who gave the disabled this garden and these houses. Since the year 2001, I decided I have a vision to start a project with disabled people because I find that most of them are unemployed. Most of them are rejected from their families. They are discriminated by the villagers. And then I start thinking of what I do. We start with the men only. I was the only woman and I was only the girl amongst them. And they were all moving with the wheelchairs. The first time we started the project, I started the project. So we were having the meeting. Every day we have the meeting of what can we do? What can we do?
What follows is a story of what they did do, starting with a home for special needs children, expanding to care for orphans, then reaching out to help people living with HIV and AIDS. Here is a glimpse of 4 years in the unfolding story of Mamello's project. Mamello and her committee of disabled villagers started by taking in 20 disabled children. With the chief's blessing, they fixed up some abandoned huts to make a space to house children whose families were unable to care for them. They called their group Padisanong. Together, we work for life.
We start to stay here. They start to leave their homes to come here. And then the community members come along, and they come with their watering can, their spades to work in the garden. They work for us. Well done.
In the beginning, it was a tremendous struggle to care for these kids. The community survived on food they grew in the garden donated by the chief. The children suffered from a range of disabilities including cerebral palsy, fetal alcohol syndrome, autism, Downs, and hemiplegia. Some were HIV positive, others orphaned by the pandemic that affects 1 in 3 people in this part of Africa. Food was often scarce. They lived in crumbling shelters with no electricity or running water. There were few resources to entertain the children, and they were often confined to a makeshift, shared bed in the remains of what was once the village tavern.
A lot of parents are dying because of AIDS and HIV now. So I see that most of them will be left alone, and then the things that they own in the family, the relatives, they abuse them, they take them for their own, and they leave those children alone with hunger and poverty. And then you said it brings a lot of hurt in their heart. So we try to counsel them. We try to make sure that they understand everything, that life, they are very important to life. They are very important to the country, and they are needed. They should have their dreams.
In 2006, Mamello and her Padisanong committee secured a long-term lease on a piece of land. Here was a permanent place for the project to grow roots. In spite of the typical sorrows and deprivations of Africa, as a visitor you couldn't help but notice the unity and strength of the community that existed so much from the very outset. Based on this solidarity and commitment, the project obtained their first grant. They bought cement and some tools and began working on the first of a series of buildings which would form their community center.
They are just coming here with their lunch box, small lunch box that they eat here, but still they are coming to work. You see how many are in the work. Yes, so because I have told the community to learn not to depend on anything. They should depend on their hands. So this is why you see a lot of work being happening here.
Hundreds of people from the surrounding villages gave their time to volunteer and help Mamello build her dream. 4 years later, the center is a flourishing heart of a developing community. In addition to 2 dormitories for disabled kids, they've built a primary school, a library, a handicraft cooperative, a health clinic, and a high school.
Still sleeping here.
Here, in their dormitories, life has improved greatly for the resident disabled children. The kids take pride in having their own belongings. Living in this style of home fosters a sense of family. The original 2 caregivers have been joined by 6 others, and the number of children in their care has grown to 70. At 4 a.m. in the morning, the caregivers wake up and start hauling and heating water. Each child is given a bath every day. A second house at Padisanong is home for girls. Each of the 2 8-by-12 meter rectangular buildings houses 35 children, along with their caregivers. Furniture and bedding need to be rearranged several times each day to make room for bathing, meals, and studying. Working out of a 6-meter round mud hut, the chefs crank out 3 meals a day for 100 people. Having regular food and better shelter has allowed for improvements in the children's mobility and freedom as the project moves from emergency to emergence.
We found an opportunity with an organization called Malamulele organization coming from South Africa. And we identified children with cerebral palsy and they were given treatment. The caregivers were also shown as how to carry on that treatment with the kids while we are gone. So we come here and then we give them treatment and we show the caregivers how to continue that treatment when we are away. So today basically is a follow-up on what we did in August to see if there's any progress in the kids' function in terms of self-care, schooling, and their leisure activities. They were given some assistive devices to help them carry on with the treatment. So not only do we want to see if there's progress, we want to see if those devices are being used properly, if they're not giving any problems to the caregivers and to the kids themselves. They shouldn't be getting any wounds or bruises from using the devices. So it's a follow-up to check on the devices, to check on the home program, whether it's being carried out properly and whether there's any progress and what to do from here on. Because for those that there's progress, then we need to move a step further. If they were not being able to sit by themselves, we now need to look at, can they now stand and walk, And for those that there's no progress, why is there no progress? What can we change? What can we do to make their function much better? So that's basically what today is about. The caregivers are amazed. They are speechless on the progress that most of the children have done. It's on a scale of 80%, I would say it looks very good. We are very pleased on the work that the caregivers are doing with the children.
Okay, can you get your arm up, yeah?
Can I go outside?
In this?
Yes.
Okay. It's not really meant for outside, but there's a nice path outside.
At Padisanong, disability is no longer a barrier to having a happy childhood. The residents participate in sports, attend school, and regularly perform for visitors to the project. It's hard to believe how far they've come in 4 years. There's incredible pride and determination coursing through each member of this ad hoc family. Padisanong embraces the special needs and gifts of all of its members. With the center itself a testament to their collective power, the community of children and caregivers find joy in daily living. You've heard about Africa's AIDS orphans. Here they are.
We have also started the project of orphan and vulnerable children in 14 villages. Since you see that they are small and they are left alone, no parents, anybody can come and abuse them.
On Easter Sunday, 2006, Mamello invited the orphans from the surrounding villages to come to Padisanong for a gathering. She had apples and bananas enough for the 50 kids she expected. Instead, 300 hungry orphans showed up.
That is a lesson where we teach them that, you see, your parents have passed away. That is not the end. You have to go on with life because we need you to have a bright future.
After that Easter gathering, Mamello announced that she was opening a primary school for orphans and vulnerable children.
I like this center to have a primary school where disabled and vulnerable orphans and community children will be.
The project had already found some volunteers to teach the disabled resident kids at Padisanong. This was called the preschool. Orphaned children came from all over the mountains, eager for a chance to come to school.
My name is Mrs. Makeleto Maswebe, the principal of English Medium, Mamelo English Medium Community Primary School. Here our school is integrated school, the school of disabled, orphans, and the needy.
"4 years from the laying of the first bricks, 360 students attend Mamello English Medium School. There are 8 classrooms, the original preschool, plus grades 1 through 7. There's a group of committed teachers, a playground with swings and jungle gyms, and a school library and computer lab. The project runs a scholarship program for high school students. Orphans and vulnerable youth attend various schools in the region, including a secondary school that is being built at the Padisanong project site. Attending secondary school will open doors and offer bright African kids a shot at college and university. The importance of schooling for orphans cannot be overstated. Just being part of a community group is so important for kids who've lost their own families. Much of the real learning takes place outside of the classroom. Music and choral singing are integral to life and culture here, as is drama and dance. Playing sports builds up self-esteem and gives kids a place on a team. Instead of going home to their empty huts after school, the kids tear after soccer balls until they're shredded bits of fluff. The sports program is a way to engage youth in community service work and farming. In exchange for balls, uniforms, and boots, team members pitch in on community gardens and orchard projects. In this way, kids gain more than just soccer skills. They're developing the means for sustainable livelihoods. Kids in both primary and secondary school get fed lunch every day. Learning just where that food comes from is important for any kid, but doubly important here in Lesotho. School gardening programs are helping teach kids, whose farming families usually own a plot of land, how to produce food for themselves and their siblings.
So we try by what we have in agriculture here to feed the students we try by all means to see to it that the orphans, they get fresh food that they get from the garden. So those, it helps the center to grow. It helps the other people from outside to be interested in what they see with us here.
In addition to integrating food growing into the curriculum at school, Padisanong is going out into the surrounding villages to help the orphans manage home gardens and orchards. Realizing that most orphans were relying solely on their school lunch for their daily meal, the center started a feeding program. Padisanong provides 3 meals a week to orphans in the surrounding villages. The community dinners are also attended by local AIDS patients who need healthy food to handle their heavy-duty antiretroviral medications. Padisanong produces as much of the food served at these community dinners as they can. The schools and the project are surrounded by gardens. Every bit of space is being used to produce food. They serve vegetables out of the center's extensive vegetable gardens, eggs from the project's chickens, and meat from the piggery. A fenced 3-acre orchard is growing 500 fruit trees. A greenhouse has been built to produce seedlings and year-round crops. These investments in the long-term food security for the community aim to lift the project from dependency on outside donors and provide the foundation for health in Lesotho.
So who's going to start? Pule. Pule, no. Pule, you must start.
You don't hear stories about places like Padisanong very often. Instead, Lesotho is famous for being the country with one of the highest incidences of HIV/AIDS in the world. 1 in 3 people is infected. It is a bleak situation. These rural communities, where Mamello and her project work, are on the front lines of the pandemic. Back in the early days, as Mamello was beginning her project, AIDS was a deeply stigmatized but widespread disease. Few people wanted to talk about it, since, before treatment was available, to be infected meant certain death.
We find that AIDS is coming. We heard of AIDS and HIV. Then the community who are working in the garden, as they are many, they are 150 every month. So as they are many in the garden, I think that these people must know about AIDS and HIV. Then I start to call the project called PSI. They come here and they give the group counseling. And after that group counseling, luckily, all of them tested.
We are here today because they have been supporting us. They did understand that to know their status is so important for their life. And through us as a New Start members, we are so happy because we see committed people. We see Basotho now that they are becoming to understand what we mean or what is meant by HIV and AIDS.
Getting their members tested was the first step in launching an AIDS education campaign. Fortunately, Mamello's testing campaign came just as Lesotho began rolling out free antiretroviral treatment in public hospitals.
Afterwards, I was to talk with them and I said, I want you, those who are positive, those who feel they can be open with their status, they may do so because we would like to start a support group.
A group of 4 HIV-positive women emerged as leaders of a movement. to mobilize people in the region to fight AIDS. These women became known as the warriors. They traveled on foot from village to village, spreading the word about HIV. In a time when little was known about the disease, the warriors stood in front of groups of villagers and told them the facts about HIV, explaining how taking the ARV medication had brought them back from the brink of death. These public declarations spelled out the path from fear to healing. Get tested, get treated, join us and be well was the warrior mantra.
Sengwe mona sefuwe monana sengwe se HIV and AIDS shebe seno se mono ho rona ho ngotswe eng ho rata tse ho ikamohela ha re keta ha re tswile metse monana ha re di apere e mo le mo tsa bona ka ntse mthona positive mme la bana ipatile ba o ipatile ha ka ba skipa seno sa tsa fihla go tshaka le tswa botsa rona hantle na o bema ke mo fe ke a mo
Gradually, they earned the trust of villagers, encouraging many others to get tested and seek treatment. Adherence includes helping HIV-positive villagers access treatment through a transportation fund which sends regular truckloads of patients to the local hospital to collect their medications. It also means teaming community health workers with patients to ensure those on treatment stick to their medications. The warriors set up their office in a little round building adjacent to the disabled children's residence. This became the project's health clinic.
I first came in January 2008, looking to just help out, to volunteer, because I was here in country and I'm a nurse practitioner. My daughter and husband had been here for World AIDS Day and they had come to Padisanong and loved it. And so my daughter said, Mom, go to Padisanong and you can volunteer. Maybe you can even pull weeds in the garden or do something. And so I walked in and, you know, Mamelo said, oh, so you can provide health care. And I said, yes. She said, that's what I want you to do. So I've been doing it ever since. This is not the same bed that we had when I went.
Together with a local nurse, Sandy set up a tiny health clinic in the warrior's hut at Padisanong. The clinic is the humble beginnings of what Mamello imagines will be a center equipped to treat people living with AIDS in her district. Every year, Mamello holds a ceremony for HIV support groups in the region.
It's a HIV Day. We are celebrating to mark the HIV Day.
The project has come a long way from the early days of shame and fear. Their World AIDS Day gatherings are rowdy celebrations where people take to the streets to declare their support for people living with AIDS. Beating the odds and smashing stigma are what Padisanong do best. Just as they pulled disabled children and orphans out into the light so that they can shine, they have called together HIV-positive people to create a powerful force for change. Nowadays, people from all over the country are coming to Padisanong and asking, how do you do what you do? For Mamello, the answer is simple.
If the end of my life comes, I want to leave this place as the place where where disabled child is happy, where disabled old person is happy, where orphans are free, where people living with AIDS and HIV are happy. This is what I want to live here at the center.
This place does not sit still. By the time you see this film, Padisanong will have grown. It is an unstoppable force. With their fearless pursuit of their visions against all odds, the people of Padisanong are writing a different story of Africa, a story of empowerment from the inside out.
Thank you.